Alright, we get this dry. After you lay down a nice even coat, you start with a little bit of the black paint at the top, like we talked about in the Zoom class. You lay down a good amount of your phthalo or ultramarine or primary blue. Here, I just literally put the paint on the canvas, and then you paint it in so it's nice and smooth, and it has a good fade. The next thing that you do is once this is completely dry, and I mean completely dry, I come in and I paint these little straight up and down lines with some white, and I do them in small sections, and then I use my blender brush to blend. If it's not blending well, then you can either mist it on your brush or on the actual painting and work that way. Now the Northern Lights kind of seem to go in like a ribbon pattern. So you should have some up and down movements, so they grow and get bigger. One of the videos I think I mentioned wavelengths that I've done in the past. Kind of like when you're looking at sound waves or videos that are recording those things. And so move this up a little bit so I don't knock it with my brush. But I'm just going to slowly build these up so that some are bigger, some are thinner, some are brighter, and blend. When you're blending, you want to go up and down. And you can use whatever brush you have for blending. I have this kind of old, it was like a kind of a crappy brush that came in a makeup kit, and that's what I like to use. It's a great blender. But we're going to start just painting these Northern Lights in with white. Okay? And I'm going to make some of the spots brighter, and some of the spots I'm going to leave them a little more dull or translucent, because when I come back in and I glaze over, when we actually add the color, all of our depth, our tone, our shadows, our brights, it's all going to be done already because we laid it down in white. And so I'm just going to continue to put these in. This is the tree for the tree painting, so actually I'm going to start increasing these in size because they're a little bit bigger for that painting. And literally this is all you're doing. You're just kind of going, okay, there's these ones, maybe this one will go up a little bit even higher and kind of trail off and be small. So there's those. Then I could come in with another one down here, a little lower, maybe it's even bigger. But again, you want to go in small groupings, because if you let your paint dry on the canvas, you won't be able to get that nice blend. And the blend is what gives you that kind of glowy, ethereal quality of the Northern Lights, because they're made up of the ice crystals, they're in the air, it's the light bouncing off of them, and it creates this beautiful color. I do highly recommend that you guys look them up, look up photos of them. There's different kinds. There's some that come more in a ribbon. For the sake of this painting, I like doing these ones. They're just, to me, they're simpler. But you know, we're all different, so you can make them your own the way you want. I'm going to increase this one, making this one big, because what's going to happen is once you get all of your Northern Lights blocked in, and you're going to have the upper ones and then you have the lower ones, and the lower ones are easier. So how about I finish this guy right here, and then I will move down and I'll show you, because the lower ones are a little different and we'll lay them in a little faster, mainly because we can. I mean, they're going to be covered for the most part up with pine trees. So let's go look at the actual big painting version of that real quick. So when it's all said and done, you have these guys up here. These are your main show, and you can see how there's different, I keep dropping my paint. You can see how there's different, it goes lighter, brighter, deeper, and you can even, like I did in our Zoom class, I redid this section right here. You can go back in and paint it again. So it's very forgiving. You're just kind of laying these in. You don't want them to look too even. Actually, when I did this first row, I think I had 3 in a row that were all the same size. So I shrunk this one. It was great. It was a happy accident in the end because I really like how this one looks like there's a ribbon and it's got some fading out in the background. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break from doing these top ones that I'm doing over here. And I'm doing these ones a little different. I'm going to gap them. These ones are almost all connected, like in a big ribbon, which I've seen. I'm going to split these up just for the sake of having some fun and doing something different. But I want to show you how to do this bottom section, so that you're not just watching me forever doing this. Let's just skip over to the bottom section. It's important for us to get this bottom section light and much more bright. Because we want to be able to see our pine trees. If this is super dark, and if you notice on this canvas, there's areas where it's a lot harder to see the pine trees because it gets so dark, right? And these are just painted in black. But you want to be able to see them, so we really need to get these bright kind of frosty fades in. So I'm going to switch brushes so I can lay in the first chunks of it with a bigger brush, which means I'm not using my fade brush right away, so I'm just getting that wet and kind of cleaning it off. The way I clean off my makeup brush, so I'm not getting it completely sopped, is I mist it with my spray, and then I rub it on the clean part of this towel until it stops rubbing paint off. So you'd mist, you'd rub, you'd mist, you rub, but that way it doesn't soak your brush. Like if I actually put this brush in water, it would be a day before I could get it dry again, because there's so many more bristles bristles in this brush. So anyway, that's how you can get that dry. Alright, so bottom, I need a bigger brush. So I'm getting a bigger brush. Here we go. And I need my white. And I got my brush wet first. Got my white paint, loading it up, and I'm just gonna start bringing some up from the bottom in a vertical manner. Today's painting, I told you guys in class, if you don't have a canvas, one of the things I discovered when I was in high school and college and could not afford canvases all the time is you can just paint on a lot of different surfaces. And one of the surfaces I figured most of you might have during this quarantine is on cardboard, because a lot of people are getting packages delivered. And so this is exactly that. It's cut up cardboard. Alright, so I wanted to show you guys with this one that you can indeed do this painting on cardboard. So I'm just doing vertical strokes because I want to get this base part put in first, and then I will do those pretty fades. But I just want to get that base section in. Oops. And now I need more white paint. Alright, more water, more paint. This doesn't have to be super opaque down here. Some areas I'm just going to do brighter than others, just like when we're doing these guys. You want to have brighter and darker areas, so same thing for this. I'm slowly going to start to pull up a little bit higher. And I'm letting those remain thinner. Also, I'm getting my paint progressively a little bit more wet. It'll increase how much it can blend for you guys. Alright, and now I'm getting to the point where I'm going to want to switch my brushes. And I'm going to mist this so it doesn't dry while I show you something. Alright. So on this, just like we have these misty little wisps, I have that same thing going on here. That's where I want to go now. I want to get the mist in. So I brought up the white to about here. Now I'm putting in these. Which means I need a different paintbrush. And there it is. I was looking for it. So I'm moving over still a bigger paintbrush because I'm not doing quite as detailed. Get it wet, get it loaded with some wet, watery white. I'm going to grab my blender now, and I'm going to start putting in these wisps, these wispy areas that we were just talking about. And now I want to blend them, right? So I'm going to take special care to not touch these guys because I do want a little bit of a separation, and work in small movements like we were talking about with these guys, but this is just on a bigger scale. I'm using a bigger brush, but I am using an angled again, so if you have one, if you don't, go for your whatever one gives you a nice tippy edge. Misting my blender brush, trying to keep my lines straight up and down. I'm not going to freak out too much if they're not. I am again going in sections. I'm going to leave a bigger gap this time. So it's that same idea that we were doing up here, where we're going to slowly build up. I don't know if you can notice, but some of this is almost turning like a blue. Also, I'm not going to forget about that, okay? Because again, we're building it up. We'll get glazed over. I'm going up and down. If yours starts turning really blue, it might be that your paint is not all the way dry yet, or actually that'll be what it is. But also, again, don't freak out because we're going to add in some lights and darks here and there anyways, at the, you know, like just to increase the tone, you know, to like bring some of them brighter. So again, this is pretty much good to go because I'm going to glaze over it, but if I want to make some of the areas brighter, I can go in with my white. It's the same thing you'll do up here when you're trying to increase some of the areas to be brighter. This is very mid-tone, especially right here. They're deeper, so going in with some pure white paint. And then when I do the blender this time, I'm going to barely take it across. Like before you saw me do multiple strokes, this time I'll only do like maybe 2 or 3. Because that preserves the white paint. It's not going to blend it out, which is what kind of has been happening. But because we're doing this in layers, it just gives it, once you add the glazing over it, it's such a lovely look. And it's not translating so well over the photos or the video, but you will hopefully see it and experience it for yourself in person when you're doing this painting. So now this is the second layer on the bottom where I'm adding the brights, and I'm still blending, but I'm only maybe running it 1 to 3 times across. So this is very mellow here. I'm going to add in a bright area with more paint. And again, I'm going to go, whoop, not add as much. I like misting my brush because sometimes when I miss the actual canvas it works out, and sometimes when I miss the canvas I get big drops instead of mist, and it messes with the other areas. So. Alright, so I'm starting to build and get brighter and darker areas. Again, you don't have to be super precise about this part of your painting, only because it will be covered. So it's just giving it some nice differences here and there. Okay. Alright. I'm gonna move this one up a little bit over here on the side. So this is just where you're firming it up. Like, make sure you like your shapes. Alright, and the bottom's pretty done. I mean, you really don't have to worry about as many details on the bottom. So now what I could do is wash this brush off, go back to my smaller brush, and I will now put in the lights to the top parts of the northern lights, this top area. So I've got my smaller angled brush, and I've got my handy dandy blender, my spray bottle. I have them all close. So I'm going to go load this brush with some pure white because I want to brighten this guy right here. And you just pick where you want it to be brightest. It doesn't have to be the tallest point. It could emanate from the bottom. So like, let's say if I was going to do one where it emanated more from the bottom, then I do that. If you accidentally get too much paint on this brush, you can always rub it on the dry, clean cloth. Ooh, see, I have too much paint. The good news is I can still use that, or you can lightly get something wet and rinse it off. It's up to you. If it's really annoying you and you don't like it, get a damp cloth, wipe it off very gently. You don't want to pull the paint that's already down off. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I think it's gotten too wet. So I'm rubbing it on the clean part of the towel. Alright. So this is all you're doing. Just gonna continue. I'm not gonna continue taping. I'm just gonna put in maybe another lower band over here. This will be the highest band, and continue blending and having lights and dark areas and blend them so I can get that nice shimmery look from the northern lights. So that's all I'm gonna keep doing, you guys. So when I come back, so I'm going to pause the video because you've kind of seen me do this over and over again, is when we come back we'll do our glazing and get our colors in. Now that guy went crooked, again, I can correct that. Alright, so I'll see you in a little bit. Alright, we are back. Let's hit up this area. So I'm going to do some blending and glazing on this area. And I think I will grab a bigger brush just to help it move along and go a little quicker. Just like in this painting, I'm going to stay true to the colors and do those soft kind of purple rosy areas of the lights and intersperse with some cool blues. Okay. So I have some blue. I'm gonna mix that blue up with lots of water so it's nice and light, and I'm just gonna start I'm gonna leave maybe this area for rosy, and over here I'm gonna have two areas where I go more rosy. On this area, I'm gonna have more blue toned. So now I'm doing my glazing with the blue. And then I'll do my blend. I think I have that too watered down. Get a little more paint. There we go. Taking it all the way down to the bottom, and then up here I'll use my brush in a vertical fashion, and then down here I can just fill in. Sorry, I'm knocking this. Move it up. Get some blends going. Alright. Now I'm going to get my brush cleaned off and go for some of the rosier color. And if you want to keep it even more cool tone, you can grab some of your blue and then go forward like that. So at the bottom I am blocking it in, and then up here I use my brush, and then I blend. And I'm going to continue to kind of build on that. Give it maybe a little bit more red. Maybe a little bit right here. And I'm gonna use what I have left and just go over and do this section real quick. So I've got those locked in loaded. Right. Blend in a little bit of the blue and get a nice little violet fade going in here. That'll be fun. Remember, we can build our layers by increasing either the number of glazes you put on a section or the thickness of your paint. There you go. So now I'm going to work my blue in more and more. And I'm just going to keep doing that until I get them all blended. And I will come back to you after that is set, and we'll do like final touches on them before we go to the trees. Alright? Alright, we are back. It's time for us to finish this painting finally. For you guys, maybe it won't be as long as it did for me. Anyways, I have my brush rut that I want to use. I'm using an angle brush this time, so if you have one, they're really nice for laying in straight lines, especially when they are vertical. And I'm getting my brush loaded with some black paint. And now we're just putting in trees. So this is actually pretty easy. So I'm just gonna lay in some trees, and I'm gonna like kind of check how high do I want to go and how visible are they going to be. So I'm just gonna lay in some actual tree trunks, and some will be taller than others. And if I don't have my brush loaded right, it'll get kind of dry paint. You want different heights. Some of them can be crooked. Trees do not all grow straight. Sometimes you have a tree that's down. That's fine too. So let's say I'm going to put a downed tree right there. Okay. Something I like to do too is, as I'm doing this and I'm trying my best to not make all the trees look exactly the same, is and not be too patterned in their heights and whatnot, is also just getting all the trunks kind of in, not all of them, but you know, I'll doctor and add as I go. Some can be closer than others. Some will be bigger because they're in front of others. Some will be smaller. But then the nice thing is also putting in, you know, like sometimes there's trees that just don't, and brush. And so this is a good time to add in this kind of brush layer of other things. And I'm just doing that flicky motion you guys have seen me do before. Some will be thicker, some will be thinner. It just creates a fill and a backdrop for some of the trees. Okay? This is by no means grass, just so you know. Because this is the top of the trees. It's just that this creates filler. Some of the things I'm going to lay in different directions too. I'm not going to all do just complete perpendicular, or sorry, vertical. It's been a very long week. So I am sorry for all the things that have happened during this painting. Alright. I'm probably going to put more trees in, but for right now I'm just going to stop and demo what I want you to do to finish this painting. Okay, now you can use a fan brush or you can use a flat-headed brush. Either one will work and do fine. Even a round brush, if you're in a pinch, would also work. And so you could have this, you could use this, you could use whatever your fan brush is. We have fan brushes. Or use the flat. I'll show you with the flat first because I know for sure everybody has a flat. So of course, just like always, I get it wet first and then I'm going to come in. Now the very top of the tree is where the tree is thinnest, so if I have a really particularly thick top, then I might come in, and I'm just keeping my paintbrush completely straight up and down and letting the brush just lay down on the canvas, and it leaves that nice thin line. Sometimes at the top of a pine tree I'll just angle it ever so much, just like that, and create the very top. Depends on what kind of tree you're doing. So you can kind of see that right there, how I angled them up. So it kind of creates like a little 3-spoke. Then I start to bring out layers. And a lot of times in pine trees, they tend to grow, I forget what the name is, but it's like the branches all come out at the same level. So like it'll go a gap, you'll have branches, it'll go a gap, you'll have more branches. And so I tend to like follow that rule. It's harder to spot that in a blue spruce. Those are fuller. Some pine trees are full, some are more gapped out. But as you see, I'm just keeping this pretty much horizontal, loaded with paint, and slowly increasing how big we get as we go downward. And I'm going slow with that because, again, this is the top of the tree. And I want it to look like that. I want it to look like we're looking at the very tops of the trees up towards the sky. Now since these are big, I'm going to have to continually reload my brush. Alright. Now, I'm going to go over here to this guy. He's taller. I lay in my little top things here that I like to lay in. This is not hard. This is totally beginner level, but ends up looking great. And I will show you in a second how to do this with the fan brush as well. The paint's kind of getting into a dry brush mode, so I'm wetting it and reloading. And if I need to firm out my trunk, I can. Alright, so I've got 2 trees laid in. It's looking pretty sweet, especially with the northern light background. It's a very mellow, kind of relaxing painting. Let's see. I can hop over here to this guy. He's a shorter tree, tinier. Maybe he's a fuller tree. This looks like a sore thumb over here. Alright, so you can kind of see it forming. Now I told you I would also show you how to do this with a fan. See how this guy works out. Blot him, wet him, blot him, load him, or her. It's a big fan brush, so when I do the tippy top like I've been doing, I'm only using a portion of it because it's so big. You might have a smaller one, so I have to keep mine at an angle. Move this down. Hopefully you guys can see it. It's really dark right there, so it's harder to see. But I did my little 3 topper. Now again, up here at the top, my fan brush is so big that I'm only using a portion of it. It will create a different looking. I can start as I go down lower and it gets bigger. I can start using more. Reload if I'm getting dry. But this creates a completely different type of pine tree. And none of them are right or wrong. There's a lot of different types of pine trees. It comes down to like, what do you want? And I do want to mix. I don't want to have all my pine trees be exactly the same. There are forests that are like that. Sometimes there are forests that are like replanted, you know, after heavy forestation has come through. So you get these forests where they're all the same. So actually to balance out this guy, I'm actually going to put another one right in here. So that I've got a variety. And maybe this guy's going to back up to this guy. Alright. Alright, load my brush. Mist my paints so they don't dry out on me. I'm doing two paintings at once here, so I put one in front of a fan while I demo a different one for you guys. Getting that very tippy top. Using that edge. I'm going to brush that's losing paint. This is a very Bob Ross kind of tree. That's how he does them. My husband has like totally nailed down this method. He loves Bob Ross. So he's always doing Bob Ross paintings. And he works with the oils. Which means we have to get like lots of ventilation going when Dad's doing paintings. Alright, so we got two different types of trees happening. Totally okay. More like nature. Alright, so this is what you do. You just continue to lay in your trees. Whichever way you feel like laying in trees, it's up to you. Whatever type, you could do them all the same. It depends on if you only have one type of brush, that's fine. No big deal. We are not stressing. This is supposed to be fun. And you know what? We've worked really hard to get to this point in this painting. It was like, hopefully, the easiest thing. As long as you guys you can even practice on some cardboard or scrap sheet of paper with your spare acrylics and maybe a color that you don't need a lot of or haven't used a lot of. You can totally do that as well. Okay. Alright, I'm going to switch over. Maybe this one. I'll do this one too. And then I'll do the rest with the flat brush. Lay in the top. I laid him in kind of crooked because it's fun. I will say this about painting pine trees. They go better if you leave spaces. I tend to, if somebody fills in a pine tree too much, it tends to get the look of when we're little and we do triangle pine trees. And so I will say, really be aware of leaving gaps. Just like when we were doing our tree for the monochromatic and we had to leave gaps in areas for our leaves and limbs. I just want you to do that same thing again with this, you know. Leaving those gaps. I'm just going to lay in some more. Oh, dropped my yellow. Right. Switching brushes. Wet, load. I'm going to put one right in here. Maybe a tinier, skinnier tree. And then this one that's fallen, I want to make it a little bit more of a funky shape. So it's more like a pine tree that's fallen. Alright, and then maybe we put in another little pine tree right here. I hope you guys do not have as many problems as I did with picking colors and figuring out what look you want. Clearly, I thought I could pull off a really heavy red and pink, and then as I got further into the painting, I just wasn't happy. And you know what? If you're not happy with your painting, one, it could be because you're being overly perfectionistic, and that happens. But two, if you're not happy with your painting and it's just merely because you just don't like the colors, it's something you can totally fix, then just fix it. So that's why we did the glazing over, and I went with the lighter pink. And I'm so much more happy. I really like the soft glow of the pink that's barely there as opposed to the really strong one. That was just too much for me. Alright, so I got some smaller trees in here. They look like they're a little further away, maybe. Get this guy in. The nice thing is that as you're doing all these different trees, it all just kind of fills in. This totally reminds me of looking at my backyard that I grew up in. Ooh, this is gonna be a really tall tree. The big deal to remember too, that I didn't mention the first time, but hopefully you can see me doing it, is what I don't want you to do is I don't ever want you to just bring out the branches from the side of the line. You have to paint in front of the line. Okay, one of the reasons why it's so easy to do these, but also because branches are in front of that tree trunk. Like if you look outside, like honestly, go look outside or find a pine tree or a picture of a pine tree and look at your trees. Your branches come out from all sides. They do not just come out on two sides, okay? That would look really strange, but sometimes we just forget that when we're painting. I'm going to see a lot of beginners do that where they only paint it coming straight out like that from the side of the trunk. And it's not, it's in front of the trunk too. So when you're doing these it's almost like a horizontal scumble, then I want to see it coming in front of that trunk. If it doesn't come in front of the trunk, it's not going to look great. Alright, that's a really big tree. He's up close. So his branches are going to be a little bit thicker and bigger because he's in front of all these other trees. And I'm glad I laid in some of those little lines because they just kind of help look like other tree tops and stuff like that. It's nice. Alright, load my brush. I kind of skipped over this dude right here. And I'm going to make this guy a little bigger than the other one next to it. Again, coming in front of the trunk. This is going to be pretty, you guys. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see pictures of when you guys finish your own. There's another tall one. Not quite as tall. One of the things, let's see, in one of my other classes, my watercolor class, sometimes people would make the tree too thick up high, kind of like that guy is currently. I mean, he's okay, and I can get away with leaving him the way he is. But if that happens to you, one of the things I showed the students in that class, and I'll move this a little closer over here, is he's pretty thick. So what I showed them is just take your brush and see if I can do this left-handed so you can actually see, and just make him a little taller. And then you can make that top a little bit skinnier. Okay? And nobody will even know that that happened. It's great. Such a quick and easy fix. So simple. I need to wet this. It's getting a little dry. Alright, look at how this goes. This part's like the fastest, easiest part. Well, I hope it's easy for you. Once you get the hang of it, I mean, if you practice first especially, it's just going to be like boom, boom, boom. Alright, and then you can kind of step back and check it out, see if you need to like correct anything, fill anything in. Are there any weird shapes that we've created on accident? I do want to put another tree in here. I think I'll make that one a, maybe I'll make that one another fan brush one. I don't know. Just to like change it up here and there. Which means I need my fan brush. So I'll get my fan brush loaded up again. And I don't want them quite as tall as these two, so I'll make them right in between, maybe at a slight angle. Yep. And I can move this back up, so I'm not going to whack it with my brush. Any more paint. And again, with the fan brush, I just have to, at the very top, start with just that little edge until I get down lower, and I can make it bigger. Reload. And maybe I'll put in like a bare tree trunk right in here. In the background. Put another one over here. Sometimes it's good to just have little bare pine trees that don't actually have anybody, no branches, they've kind of died. Just dead trees in the forest. It gives it that realistic look, kind of like how I have the one that's going down over here. I'm just going to put in some limbs coming off of him. And put in some more kind of grassy stuff in here. Reload. Alright, any holes that I want to fill in? I kind of want to fill in here. So maybe, oh, he's kind of thick. Oh, paint's getting dry. Again, the nice thing is you guys do not have to worry about everything being perfect. It's fine to do different kinds of trees. I am finishing them even if it's a tree that's in the background. I am finishing them off because that's how you would see it in real life. You'd see the different branches running into each other. You'd see the mix. This guy bugs me a little bit. So maybe I'll put the one that's right here. I'm pretending there's a tree on the edge here. So. Alright, you guys. It's pretty much done. I hope you enjoyed this painting. This is where you get to sign it. Be an awesome artist that I know you are. Put in some signatures. Decide how you want to sign it. You could use a jelly roll pen. You could use a tiny paintbrush. You could just do your initials. But you guys are my awesome artists. And I can't wait to see your pictures. And see how they worked out. And I will see you soon. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And had fun. And I can't wait to see them. Because I think they'll all be different. Everyone does different trees. Everyone's going to have different colors to the northern lights that they're going to like. It's going to be cool. It's going to be awesome. And I'm proud of you guys. And way to go on a good semester. And I really hope to see you guys in the fall. And we get to try out some other techniques. There's things we never got to due to adjusting to not seeing each other, not having class weekly. And so I'm excited to hopefully getting into those projects next semester. So anyways, I will talk to you later. Take care, have fun, stay safe, and enjoy the good weather whenever we get it. Bye.